Welcome back to episode 2. This is Kenny.
This is Tony.
And this is Jaron.
We left off that we had found our dream, our passion, that we were about to go start creating movies.
We thought we had it all,
Yes, we're about
and
to
then it
take
all
off.
came crashing down.
Then life happened.
Yeah.
Behind the music. No, this is really what we wanted to get across, is that there are ups and downs to every journey, is a good way to put it. But ours, basically, we call it the lost decade because literally what we had in mind for the next step of Scorpio Entertainment at that time was we're going to write some scripts and sell those scripts, get our names out there, and then have the capital basically to be able to make whatever we want. And how did that go, Kenny?
Well, after 2004, after we graduated, we had the production budget and everything.
And like we said, we were coming off the high of our big debut moment as Scorpio Entertainment.
Once you leave college, you find out that you don't have any of the equipment, the computer software, the amount of friends accessible in the college campus to actually help you.
Yeah, it's a lot different than being submersed in the college atmosphere when you suddenly have that moment of realization that, okay, I'm starting from scratch.
And also something we'll touch on a little later down the line. There also was no YouTube.
Okay, this is setting up for saying what exactly a moment in time was. We were 2004. YouTube was
just came out.
Just
people
started.
weren't knowing it as an avenue for content creation at the time, though. It was more a place where you could drag and drop your ideas and maybe people will see it, but there was no idea of being a YouTuber.
YouTube officially launched February 14th, 2005.
See? So we were right before even the dawn of YouTube.
So we thought like we could move to LA. You know, that'd be the only logical step. But of course, you may say like, oh, maybe the passion wasn't great enough. But I think we just were not ready to take that step.
We were committed. And to our credit, we were meeting with our friend in business every week, working on script.
Yeah,
Well,
it's one of those things, and it's something you can look back on and reflect. But I do think it was, and I think everybody has it. It was a little bit of that fear of the unknown, right? That little bit of the like, I want to go do this, but do I want to leave the confines of this place of comfort?
Well, we started saying, oh, we'll put our city on the map, you know?
Yeah, we did have bright ideas, but I think what maybe held us back was a fear of really flying on our own instead of having that group of friends to fall back on and show and always have. We really just had ourselves to make the schedules, finish the writing. Really where we got caught in a loop was the writing process and a constant rewrite of the original script.
Well, right. And before we even get to that, one of the next steps that I think we decided to take, knowing that we weren't going to go down to LA right away, is my brother and I actually decided to go get our MBAs, thinking, let's get some business background so we can really get the company off the ground. And was it helpful to us? Maybe a little bit. It was hard to say at the time because we didn't put it into practice right away. But, doing this stuff now, I think a lot of the knowledge came back to us a little bit, but we felt comfortable and confident in a lot of things we were doing, even relearning. So we decided the next easiest step was to write a script. And we took some of the story ideas that we had.
Kind of like the lowest barrier to entry that we could think of without not having that equipment available, that endless pool of actors and actresses available.
We were having in mind, this time we're writing a script with big actors in mind. And
yes,
we had that confidence in us saying, oh, we could even throw out names like Clive Owen back in the day. We were saying, oh, maybe he'll be our lead bad guy or lead character. We definitely had bright eyes. And
I think it kind of helped set us up to like write our script, though. Like kind of give us that.
It gave us that boost
idea,
of,
that background.
Man, can you imagine going on set? And we thought maybe it's a matter of months or a year before we've done our script.
And so as Scorpio Entertainment, we kept the name. There was 4 of us. And the first thing we started doing was we watched movies and we tried to break them down.
This is with our friend who helped us edit the movie Desperate Hour.
And we decided to write a script about a medical
professional
drama?
You could call it
drama?
a medical thriller.
There you
go.
Thriller.
The pitch is, what if the cure was real? And we even had thoughts of what the trailer could be before we'd even written the script.
We decided basically to take what we created in college and we're like, let's add some structure to this. Let's add some real life.
Keep in mind, we didn't create an actual company at the time. All we had was
by name. Yes, it was just we were formed.
We had the idea that Scorpio Entertainment was going to be our flagship and was going to be the banner that we carried out into the world, and that's what we were going to be known as, and that's what we're going to sell scripts as, that entity. Really what it came down to is, can we finish this first script?
Yeah, and so we kind of went gung-ho into the script writing. We actually took a weekend course. When we got there, the class was full. A lot of 40, 50-year-old people in there. Basically people like they've already done their profession and now they want to get into writing. And we were definitely the youngest people there. I mean, we're in Marin County here.
Long story short, basically, it is a good step to take, I think, even if you are thinking of being a screenwriter, is to find out how a script is actually structured, because it isn't just throwing words onto a page randomly. You do have to follow a 3-act structure and learn all of these tricks of the trade before you can even begin to think about selling a script.
And we kind of discovered that a little into this decade. After we graduated with our MBAs, we started working real 9-to-5 jobs. We did actually try to go at it without any real formal education. And we wrote this long script. It was about 120 pages. You know, we had our characters, protagonists, antagonists.
And I think we did try to inject more humor into this script. Maybe it had that mid-2000s theme of just everyday guys kind of joking their way through life a little bit.
There's a
little lightness in there, and definitely just some questionable lines even. But we basically were trying to make a more full script instead of just one idea. We wanted lots of characters that were memorable.
I think we did try to focus on like that memorable aspect of creating characters that were unique, jumped off the page, that really you felt like you connect with. You're like, oh, I want to know more about these guys. But we ran into one issue with that.
Yes. After we decided that we had finished the script, we sent it off to an acquaintance that one of our friends knew who worked for Disney, I think, at one point in time.
I think actually wrote scripts for Michael Douglas.
Oh, maybe.
Or reviewed them.
We were really stoked. We had this masterpiece. We had been working on it for about probably like 3 years. It was 2013. I'm not quite sure exact date. But anyway,
so we had confidence in it at that point when we were sending it out.
Oh, yeah.
So we got the script notes back. Pretty much the entire script had no structure.
Yes.
And the main character had no quality.
Depth. Being fully open and honest, we were a little surprised at that reaction.
We're very surprised.
We thought pretty much the hard work of the script writing phase was done, but it was pretty much back to square zero.
We thought after we made that movie in college that anything we touched was going to be gold.
We were a little delusional as far as both how a film career begins and what work goes into making a career out of something like a student film. Going that next step was kind of, maybe we were a little naive about what it takes, especially in 2004, before there was a lot of social media outlets or ways to get your voice heard that were maybe not available at that time.
Yeah, I think that was kind of an eye-opener for us. And because we were in a group, you know, we all collectively were able to support each other and saying, let's keep going, let's keep writing.
We didn't give up on the dream, and we even still met maybe even more often at that point for a little while, just to say, where did we go wrong in the script? Let's rewrite it from scratch. Pretty much scrapped all the dialogue.
Yeah, so it was a bit of a daunting process. We definitely felt like, you know, maybe this wasn't the right entry into the world we wanted to be in, but we felt we had a good story. And so we just starting with the main character and building that main character up.
We pretty much had a writing room that would consist of us sitting around a dinner table, pitching out dialogue ideas or maybe scene ideas. It wasn't always us knowing what was the next scene to write, but we were always trying to get at least something towards that bigger picture completed every time we met up. And that was going on, what would you say, from the years of 2000?
That was like 2013, 14, 15.
So when we say the lost decade, it was a decade of writing one script.
It was literally a decade.
We were literally thinking, all we have to do is complete this script and then kind of start making our dreams come true.
Yeah, and I think really we discovered that it's just, unless everybody's kind of like honed in and focused and working on this like a full-time side hustle, it's kind of a lot for 4 guys to come together and write dialogue for different characters and keep a story going once a week.
And not really doing a lot of homework or assignments in this case of saying, okay, next time we meet, bring in such and such pages of work. We really just did all our work when we were at the writer's room table. We really came to realize it was kind of a too many cooks situation.
It's funny because the few sort of writing classes that we were able to take, I think the message really is write what you know. And we were writing a medical drama without very much medical experience. So we did do a little bit of research. We researched how pharmaceutical companies work and how hospitals work and trying to figure out what we could create from that. But yeah,
we also didn't want to be, a ripoff of any other movies. We wanted to have that origination. Right. We even compared it to other movies in the genre and said we wanted to avoid being a copycat.
We did collect a handful of movies that we felt were in the same vein as kind of what we were striving for.
Especially during the second go around.
Pick the bad ones and the good ones and said, let's not be these. Let's try to be these.
Now, I would say through the script writing process, we did actually discover when you start focusing on secondary characters, we had some secondary characters we really fell in love with, and we kind of gave them
the full attention.
They had the backstory, they had the interaction.
They were the ones that if you actually put them to screen, they'd probably be the ones to steal the show.
The hardest part, I think, for us was actually in our rewrites was scaling back some of the sub characters and giving the main character. Main characters are probably some of the toughest to write.
You want them to be you want there to be a reason that they are the central focus of the story. And and be likable, have that dialogue that really draws you in.
And you want them to move the story.
But we kept getting sidetracked with characters that were supporting characters at best.
So I might even say, just from that right there, if you guys were going to start anywhere, definitely focus on character development, like finding out who your main character is, and just kind of really building him or her up and bringing them to life, instead of just trying to write a story that you think will take off.
Think about the entertainment side of things when you're writing
characters and story are important.
You're not always writing a medical thriller type movie, but even in this process, we realized that character and dialogue is going to be a skill we would have to develop. And it was becoming a little difficult to develop that skill with 4 different minds on the project because there were differing opinions on what the main character specifically, what his whole arc would be.
And kind of during this whole process too, just the idea of submitting the script, you start actually getting pressure from a lot of people who know that you've been working on this project and they keep going, when are you guys finished? When are you guys finished? And there's a lot of self-doubt that creeps in.
Even as a group, we collectively kind of felt that pressure and also failure to deliver on a finished script that we were able to actually move to the next stage.
That was probably one of the toughest things is we almost felt like we had to be too perfect, too good, and we had to deliver, and that we were kind of letting a lot of people down who were interested in really seeing us.
Now, going back in time, would you say we should maybe have taken that first script, even with its shortcomings, and just seen what we could do with it? Or do you think, looking back, I know we can play the hindsight game, but where do you think we should have gone after that
I actually don't even know if we knew exactly what we were going to do with that script once we finished. I think the idea was to shoot it, and then we got to a point where let's just sell it.
In a way, maybe we were like dogs chasing cars in that moment, and we just had the end goal in mind more than the procedure or the hard work that goes in. We kind of wanted to shortcut a bit and into just making movies with our friends again.
And to kind of answer your question there, if you were to go back, one of the things, especially a college student right out of the gate, today it's probably a little easier, to go get a pretty inexpensive camera that can shoot 4K and then put something out there for people to see. But back then we were talking about going to buy, $1,000 cameras or something. The amount of information out there to know exactly what we needed to make a film was kind of not available for us. It was, but it wasn't like all over the place. You had to actually go out and find it.
That maybe was where we got stuck in the idea of we're going to sell our script. That was kind of what was holding us back, was saying, really, that's the moment where we'll have some money to actually spend, is when we sold our first script. So really, that's why we wanted to make doubly sure that this medical thriller was our magnum opus, our big debut that would get on the blacklist or whatever you want to call it, right. That would get studio attention, and maybe then we'd just be working on a studio's dime from that point on.
Yeah, and I would say if I was going to go back and talk to myself coming out of college, I would definitely say put together an actual plan for how you think you can achieve this, because we just felt like, let's just start with the script, but we could have easily started going let's reach out to people, let's find mentors, let's see what equipment that's cheap that we can use.
And though the routine of working every week, we were pretty diligent working every week, it eventually became that was just the time for us to have our friendship time, and we weren't necessarily always focusing those hours we spent at the writer's room on the right type of content, or even really focused on the right type of goal. And we weren't really setting as many deadlines as we should.
And I know it's kind of maybe a bit of a departure from what we're talking about right now, but there was a lot of just influence and things happening back then too. When we graduated 2004, that's when the premiere of Entourage started. So, that was kind of the Hollywood lifestyle, something to aspire to look forward to. And
maybe it blinded us to the reality a bit and kind of gave us the more glossy Hollywood version. But that is a good point to make, is that we thought, well, all you got to really do is have your buddies' backs and then we'll just make it work. But, were some details missing from even, I don't think I would recommend watching Entourage as your guide to Hollywood.
Right. I was hoping to be that overnight success. I think it's funny because there's no such thing really as an overnight success. No, it's the hard work that goes into it before you blow up and turn into something.
It was a hard lesson to learn, because we were going through those motions for quite a while. The years of writing that script kind of melt away now in my mind. I can't think back to a whole lot of specifics from each of those meetings. I just know they kept going on even when we necessarily weren't moving towards the goal any faster than we thought we were moving towards the goal, but we really were kind of hamsters in a wheel at that point.
Kind of the opening of our script. Hamster in a wheel.
Oh, yeah. I think the script did actually open with a hamster in a wheel, didn't it?
Yeah, there was definitely a moment there where we had to take some time to really evaluate what we were doing instead of just going through the motions. And maybe that would be our advice now, would be to always focus on where you're going rather than what the end game that you're dreaming about. while it's good to dream, you do have to also
plan it out.
Yeah, you have to make these plans. That takes a lot of charting out, really, when you want to make a business, especially building a brand of content creation.
I think we started getting a little more serious closer to 2015, 16, and we really said we need to get this done. I mean, we're like 7 years in already. We actually started to flip the script a little more on its head. My brother and I started taking more of a lead role into trying to develop some of the characters. And there's a lot of great resources out there like Save the Cat that we used. And we also have a screenwriting program. So it was actually pretty cool to see kind of our words come to life.
And that's really if you're involved like we are in wanting to tell stories and wanting to turn your ideas into scripts. It goes to show that you can have an idea, you can have what you think is a great idea for a plot, but if you don't have that structure in mind, things can kind of rapidly get you stuck. I do also think that maybe it wasn't the right time for our content creation in retrospect either.
Yeah, and I think especially being a creator, the struggle is actually pretty real when you get out there. We learned right off the bat that it's not an easy thing to do to just start your own companies.
You almost are using your day job as a fallback. You're trying to like, well, at least I'm working a job, and you just kind of let it go, and you stick to your 9 to 5, and you don't really try to go break out of that. You got to believe in yourself and believe in your goal and your dream that you want to achieve, really.
Right.
And it's actually kind of hard to really realize or see. You don't really, I think it kind of creeps up on you, and you kind of slip into just like the everyday life.
Having the time for this kind of thing is a luxury in itself. I know there's different walks of life, different people having struggles just to pay the bills every day. So knowing how much extra free time you even have, your income, your relative comfort in life, I know that can vary greatly from person to person, but we had the luxury of having a little time every week to set aside. But we know that, not everyone can even find the time to say, okay, I want to focus on my passion project now. But if you don't think you have the time, it's about making that commitment.
To kind of, I wouldn't say counter, but I think every day you could probably find at least 5 minutes to like put towards that goal. And I think if you do that, you develop a habit of actually working towards that.
Very important.
But I think it's like an everyday, like that's something that we didn't consider or think about, or, it's just once a week. And there's lots of things we're finding out, like you don't know what your passion is right away. Like it's just, you just try different things and you try to figure out like what you connect with.
When there's moments of those of self-doubt creeping in, you can definitely get caught up in that easily, but you have to break those feelings through productivity, through doing something that you write every day. And I can even say that there was a time when I was, to go into my geeky side of life, I used to write an article for the World of Warcraft trading card game, if we want to even give them a shout out.
Vilox.
AKA
so this is where I got my Z-list celebrity back in the 2000s. But this is kind of during the lost decade, which is why I want to bring it up, is that...
Was that during college or was that after college?
Well, this was after college. I got the opportunity to write as a staff writer for the official website for this card game that I played. And through that, I didn't have a lot of time to prepare the articles, but every week I wrote these 1,000-word articles and got really good feedback on them. Got a little...
for a game.
For a game. Now, so if I can do that and be proud of the work that I achieve in that, I think that's a testament to, not to toot my own horn, but I was going around the world at that point, visiting different conventions, signing autographs. So if I can get that little Z-list celebrity, as I like to call it,
Good mini
out
celebrity.
of just a little hobby of mine, I like to think of that as inspiration for anyone out there to take something you're passionate about and find the right outlet for it.
And your articles were kind of you were helping the community, right? You were trying to give them insights. And
I was specifically just trying to find the lighter side of the hobby. And I put a lot of personality into my articles and found that my niche was kind of the fun side. My article was called Tier Fun, where compared to being
what would you say
tier,
you were giving the community?
I would say I was giving the community positivity and kind of an outlook not everyone had thought about as for what a bit of weekly content could be on that particular game.
To piggyback off of what you're saying and finding something that you're passionate about to kind of keep that spark alive, that's actually something that we did ourselves too. Whenever we would see each other, we would talk about like we could take your knowledge of card games and we have this saga that we want to create in the future and we're going to make a card game out of it and we're going to continue that. But I think that was a huge factor in letting us keep pushing through this decade-long script writing one movie.
Yeah, in life, when you're a creator or yearning to be a creator, sometimes you just sit down and make yourself write. Other times you just get that moment of inspiration where the words just spill out of you. And I think if you find the type of subject where that happens naturally for you, definitely focus on that. Because for me, it was this card game, but for anyone, it could be any aspect of your life that you're so passionate about where it's not a chore to work on it or work on something about it, that it becomes just second nature. And before you know it, you've you've written a mini novel about building decks or whatever the applicable metaphor would be. In my case, it was a nerdy card game, but for anyone else out there, it could be something you're nerdy about. We all geek out about something, and for us as a group, we like to geek out about movies and TV shows and sci-fi. So naturally for us, when we get together in one of these writing rooms, the best, I think, moments happen when we help each other saying, yeah, I think that was a great line for that moment. Or I think encouragement can come from others or it can come from yourself. You got to be able to appreciate a good level of quality and have that mindset for what is a quality bit of content.
There's a lot of people out there that have a positive message, a lot of inspirational people out there that you can follow and listen to. And you need to just try things that even if they sound silly or you think people think they're silly, if you like them, if you find a lot of excitement with it or a lot of happiness or drive, pursue it. Find out what you can do with it. There's probably more people out there that are just like you. There's a way to turn it into a career, most likely.
Especially now when we're all connected in more ways than ever with the internet age. Now, keep in mind, we grew up 80s kids. we got to get the both sides of the coin. We kind of grew up when there wasn't social media, when there wasn't really sharing ideas. So we were lucky to find similar interests in our neighborhood. Growing up, we grew up in the same block, had other kids who kind of, came and went in our group of friends. But even growing up, we had that imagination. We were drawing ideas for characters on blank sheets of paper with our pencils. And we kind of used our imaginations to, we didn't ever have ideas back then that we were going to be turning these into movies. But even at that age, before the internet, I was saying, we found ways to find like-minded individuals that kind of shared passion for, in this case, drawing characters that you might find in an X-Men comic or something like that. But while ours may be on the geekier side of origin stories, we definitely want to get that idea out that when you find that thing that you're passionate about, regardless of if you're drawing alone in your room or writing in your diary or maybe publishing it now to social media, there's more ways to get that message out now of what it is you're passionate about. And there's definitely more people who are willing to take you in and encourage your ideas and your creativity.
I always think about how much I loved drawing and how much I loved writing deck creation articles for the card game that we played or tournament reports.
As a quick aside, when I did mention that in the first episode that I got these guys hooked on the Star Wars card game. My man here, Tony, he was pretty. I don't want to tell his story for him, but he took that idea and we practiced these card games with each other. We were kind of the test group back in the day. This is like the late 90s, before even like the special editions of Star Wars came out. We were playing cards with our favorite characters on them.
Decipher CCG.
At first, maybe you could say we were just learning how to buy the decks with the best characters and just play those. But he started to take that a step further. By the end of it, he was definitely renowned in our region as one of the top tournament,
the toughest
players.
region in the country.
Kenny and I, we kind of went to the bottom table and worked our way up from there. The sea of something.
The sea of something.
But anyway, what is our podcast rated? I forget. We'll add it later. Part of the Octorpio origin story, that was the first time we as a group went out into the world and started interacting with others based around something we were passionate about. In that time, it was the Star Wars card game. And it led to pretty new opportunities in our social lives. And, from that point led to some big prize payouts as well. So taking that leap is really what we're talking about. Is we could have just played cards, on the kitchen table at home and never really gone outside our comfort zone. But we decided, what's the next step? And because there were tournaments being organized, we took advantage of that and played the San Francisco scene. So this was the first time we decided to set out in the world on an adventure. And card games was a great way for us to do that, especially because Star Wars, tying it all into our love of sci-fi, was what we were really passionate about to begin with. So it kind of melded our two worlds together. And that was where we focused our creative energy back in the day.
Yeah, and then kind of to sort of fall back on how this tangent started, the opportunity that opened up for me and us to sort of take our love and like writing tournament reports. And I used to draw a lot.
And this is at the dawn of the internet, by the way.
Yeah, and when something like that ends or is taken away from you, you just stop doing it when it's something you really love to do. And I think if I had just continued to draw or continued to seek out other avenues to write or something, just to keep that creativity going, I think we could be, a little further in life.
If you want to work in something and doing something you love, which is kind of what our podcast is about, in general, it's all about finding that thing that you eat, you drink, you sleep, you can't stop thinking about it, and nurturing that love you have for something and finding out how that can be turned into, a way of life.
As the script was coming together, it was coming into 2016, 2017, we were putting in a lot more work, but we seemed to be meeting a lot less. And we were taking this new opportunity, this new drive that we had, and we were getting ready to do our read through. We wanted to send it out to get published again, or to be read, so that we can finally, I guess, sell the script.
It was put up or shut up time, pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much. I feel like you were saying we were working more on it. We had switched a new gear. We were like, the time is now. Like,
the lost decade wasn't lost on us at this point. We were like, we got to turn this around.
This has been going on too long. 10 years is a long time. And then, unfortunately, the unthinkable happened in our lives.
Our father was diagnosed with cancer, and we just kind of stopped pretty much everything, put everything on hold to be with the family, you know.
The weekly meetings definitely just stopped kind of cold turkey at that point. And we were still meeting for social events and stuff, but the writing definitely fell off a cliff at that point as far as using that as our way into Hollywood, or whatever you want to call it.
So that kind of had us start to think, second guess where we wanted to go in life, what we wanted to do. What we were doing was the right thing to do. And there's just a lot of questions. Something major like that happens to you, and you try to cope with it and deal with it in different ways. And fortunately for us, we had a really strong support system and family kind of lean on.
I'm sure there's plenty listening out there that can relate to moments like this. Even maybe specifically, cancer can be one of those subjects where it might bring up moments in other people's lives where you're relating to that being such a big curveball, as you say, that you kind of reevaluate everything in life and
upside down,
right?
And kind of refocus, or take that time to reflect on where you are in life and really realize what needs to happen and to turn things around.
And it wasn't soon after he was diagnosed that he passed away. And then I think that's kind of where we just had to start reevaluating.
We kind of ended our movie meetings with the four of us. Yeah. We didn't know where life was going to take us. A lot of the opportunities that we had, we kind of fell back into dealing with the aftermath of recovery, mental, physical. It can take a toll on a body. People who have been through that know. And me personally, not the other two, but just kind of figuring out, like, if you start to think like something's wrong with your own health and your own life. You just start going through this downward spiral of struggle. It almost seemed like the unthinkable to kind of pull yourself out of it.
It took a toll on all three of us, but of course, the brothers here, they definitely had the biggest life-changing moment in that, but that's definitely where we can mark pretty much the end of Scorpio Entertainment. Sad but true, but being open about it, that was the life event that really made us say, you've got to take inventory of where we are at. If we are going to build anything, it's probably not going to be anything in that lost decade.
Yeah, so pretty much I would say 2017 was pretty much the end of Scorpio Entertainment, the end of starting a production company.
But not the end of the dream.
Not the end of the dream. The dream, while seemingly distant, was still there.
So that is the Lost Decade podcast.
I think it's the Empire Strikes Back of ours. There'll be some, there's definitely some down moments in life, but I think, to recap, we took our life experiences, our ups, our downs that we're having in life, and used that to reevaluate where we were wanting to go with this idea we had. Sometimes you run into these big life moments. You've sometimes got to take inventory, like I said, and refocus your energy in the places where you can move forward and start a new beginning. And you can still be lonely even when you're in a group. That's definitely something you find, and something we were trying to recover from, clearly. But I think you'll find in our next episode, it was definitely a launching pad, and you can turn sometimes the worst negatives in life and find kind of the phoenix in the ashes.
Episode 3 is going to be talking about the rebirth, the new beginning that is facing Scorpio Entertainment, Octorpio next.
All right.